Hey everybody! Just letting you know we're starting this episode off with a little bit of a promotion for another podcast. This is called Michael and Jeremy Steal Your Podcast. And what they do is they record they record another podcast and everything where they literally crash into the studio and steal your podcast, and they do your podcast in their own way. So they did that with us, and the episode will come out on October 14th. I had a blast recording it with them, and here's their promo.
Why are you always making me climb in the smallest of places?
Well, this is the best way to get to the podcast that we need to steal this week.
It's always
like we do every week on Mondays.
Mondays, every Monday.
Religiously.
Sometimes I wish we could just walk through the door, but yeah. Every Monday on where do they find it?
Jeremy, on Spotify, Apple, anywhere that you can find podcasts. That's where we are.
I get so hot in these vents. I think they have the heater on.
Oh, Jeremy, don't move. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Michael and Jeremy Steal Your Podcast every Monday, wherever you get your podcasts and stuff.
We're going to take your podcast and we're going to do it
better,
faster,
stronger,
hornier.
Yes.
In an hour.
Or more. Sometimes.
Hey everybody! Welcome to another episode of Crimes, Killers, Cults,
and beer.
And beer, and put a knife in that. Now you might as well tell you. We're bringing on another segment to close the show out. We're bringing on Sandra's husband, Doug, to do a beer of the week segment. You know, because he's like a beer connoisseur. So.
Yes, he loves beer. There's so much beer in our house. There's beer everywhere. He had to get the fridge with the third little drawer, which is the beer drawer. There's nothing in it but beer.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But so we're going to start doing that, and and he'll have a email address for you to send to if you want to send him beer to review. So.
And we'll get you an address if you actually want to send it.
Yeah.
If you actually want to send us beer, well, not me because I don't drink it, but
Well, that's kind of what I was talking about. Just like send in a beer, like a mini sponsorship or something like that.
Nice.
And who knows, it could lead to a real sponsorship. So anyway, wrapping up the Wisconsin Cheese Binge, we're doing it the same way we did with the Canada Binge, with a heavy hitter. Although we're not going to be adding stories to the Wisconsin Cheese Binge like we did with Canada. Why? Because there's only one more Wisconsin story that I can think of off the top of my head, and that's Jeffrey Dahmer. And that'll likely be a 4-part episode, maybe more if I decide to cover a certain theory about that case, which I probably will. We're wrapping it up with the skin suit wearing, grave robbing Bobby, damn it, Bobby, that boy ain't right.
This is true. He isn't right.
Oh boy, this is a bad omen for this episode. Body snatching, mother obsessed killer, likely serial killer, the Butcher of Plainfield, the Plainfield Ghoul, Ed Gein.
Yes.
So, and definitely be sure to check out the beer of the week at the end. So.
Oh yes, it's a good one.
Ed,
very relevant.
Yeah. Ed was raised by a crazy, ultra-religious tyrant of a mother, Augusta Wilhelmine, and he was her special boy. Although I don't think that she actually loved him or anybody else for that matter. Yeah, I kind of I kind of picture Augusta as being like the religious version of Henry Lee Lucas's mother.
Like Carrie's mother.
Yeah. But his father, George, was an alcoholic who couldn't keep a job, and he pretty much did whatever he could to keep Augusta at bay, which never worked because he was always at home because he never could get a job. But that may have also been why he stayed drunk all the time.
Yeah. I mean, they have nothing better to do, but day drink, right?
Yeah. So Ed had an older brother, Henry, who was he was actually the most normal one of the family. And Ed,
that's saying something.
Yeah. Well, he really was, because we'll get to that. Ed's known to have killed 2 women, Bernice Warden and Mary Hogan, and he's suspected of killing up to 7 more people, including his own brother Henry. He also robbed graves and made a skin suit out of the bodies, and all of that was so that he could actually become mother after she died.
Fashionable. So he's like Bates and, like the guy in Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get to all of that in part 2, because it's interesting. I did kind of a deep dive on all of the pop culture about regarding Ed Gein. But short version, he was the inspiration for Hollywood's murderer characters like Norman Bates of the Psycho franchise, Leatherface of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and when the police searched his house and barn, they found one of the most gruesome crime scenes ever in U.S. history. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But
quick but simple,
so,
short and sweet.
There are some podcasts out there that would be their Ed Gein episode. I'm not aggressively side-eyeing anybody. I'm just making a blanket statement. There's some out there that don't do their research. Just saying. Sources are The World's Most Evil Killers documentary, season 1, episode 15. Another doc, the Psycho, the lost tapes of Ed Gein, and there's a little bit of wiki involved as well. Now, what's interesting about that Psycho, the lost tapes of Ed Gein, they had the 3 guys from last podcast on the left there doing commentary, I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm indirectly using them as source material in this episode.
Nice. You get it wherever you can, right?
I started watching that, and I was just like, whoa, that's last podcast guys. And their main host, Marcus Park, is the GOAT when it comes to true crime narration. He's the best there is. Yeah. I wish I was half as good as he is. He doesn't stutter. He doesn't.
He can say body instead of Bobby. Got it.
Damn it, Bobby.
He like propane and propane accessories.
Edward Theodore Gein was born August 27, 1906. That makes him a Virgo, although it's an August Virgo. He was born in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And when he was 8 years old, his parents moved their family to Plainfield. Why, you might be asking?
Why? Tell us.
I'll tell you. His mother, Augusta, decided that La Crosse was the Sodom and Gomorrah type hellhole. And she didn't want her children to be corrupted by the immoral influence of the big city. Now, I'd never heard of La Crosse before. I mean, the only reason I'd heard of Plainfield was because of Ed Gein. But La Crosse today has a population of 51,000 people. In 1853, its population was 543 people. And by 1914, which is when they left La Crosse, the population was less than 1,200. Yeah, I don't think that there was lots of craziness going on then.
It seems a little quiet, if you got like all the people in your high school together to live in like just there, that would be it.
I mean, the most excitement the police officer had might have been like a pig theft or something,
Pig theft.
Yeah.
Cow running.
Yeah, cow.
Another cow.
Or, somebody stole a block of nacho cheese or something. That's nacho cheese.
It's nacho cheese.
But the fact of the matter is, she wanted to isolate her family due to her religious fanaticism. But by comparison, in 2022, the Plainfield population was 934. In 1910, the population was 723. But by 1920, the population was 580. So I'm guessing that lots of the Plainfield men joined the military at the start of World War One.
Unfortunately, yeah. Or Ed Gein got around more than we realized,
That's scary. But on a side note, but just in a matter of years for the population to be cut by like 300 people or whatever, that's definitely, and World War II happened during that time frame. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. A lot of men left for war and either died or just didn't come back. They just went elsewhere when the war was over.
Mm-hmm.
But side note, in 1942, Ed was drafted by the Army in World War II, but he was rejected because he was too old.
Nice.
That's why he was rejected, because he was too old. Not because of anything else. Not because he was cuckoo, but because he was too old.
Well, I mean, I don't think they really cared about crazy. They were just like, here, go
True.
kill some people. Can do.
But they got a remote 150-acre farm outside of Plainfield. Ed was pretty much forbidden to ever leave the farm, and it was pretty much just school, and that was it. Henry got a little more freedom because he was older, and Augusta would send him into town to run errands. But Augusta was overly devout Lutheran, and she would preach to the boys about the evils of the world and how drinking was evil. I mean, she also hated her alcoholic husband, and she also taught she taught the boys that all women were sexually promiscuous and tools of the devil. And sex was only
that woman is the devil.
Devil.
She is the devil. Mama always told me.
Mama, that I bet that there's probably I bet that the Ed Gein story kind of had a little bit of inspiration in that movie, Happy Gilmore. Just the relationship
That's not
with his
Happy
mother.
Gilmore. That's Waterboy.
Waterboy, yeah.
The Happy Gilmore is the golfing, why don't you just go to your home?
Yeah.
That's your home. Are you too good for your home? Or, Price is Wrong, bitch.
But,
no, that's Waterboy was football.
Waterboy. Adam Sandler might have taken a little bit of inspiration from the Ed Gein story for the relationship with his mother in that movie.
Mama don't like me playing the foosball.
That sex was only for reproduction and nothing else, and it was most definitely not ever to be enjoyed. Unless you were making babies, you were sinning if you were having sex.
Well, you can tell how much she enjoyed it. Her husband must have been great.
Two of them. So they had sex twice that we know of.
At least that we know of, yes.
Maybe 4 times.
What was it? Lie back and think of your country? What?
She drummed it into their heads that they couldn't socialize with anybody outside of the Gein family. And, while Plainfield wasn't the bustling metropolis that La Crosse was, all the people in Plainfield were also heathens, and all the women were whores. And I gotta wonder what Augusta would have done if both of her boys had turned out gay.
I mean, at this point, can she really do much worse? I mean, if she disowned them, it'd be like, okay, they'd probably be like, we're free, free of you and your
Honestly, she
influence.
probably
And
would have killed them. She probably would
maybe.
have killed them. um, every night she would read from the Old Testament of her Bible to her sons for hours on end. Pretty much just the Old Testament with a little bit of
All where all the good
revelations.
stuff is, all
With
the
a little,
loving stuff.
yeah, with a little bit of revelations thrown in. Just to keep you scared.
For the hellfire. Yeah.
Yeah. She also made the boys swear that they would never, ever, ever, ever be with a woman. Ed idolized his mother, and he had an unhealthy obsession with her. Ed had no friends.
Oedipus complex.
Yeah,
Yikes.
pretty much. I mean, Ed never admitted to any sexual relationship with Augusta, but a lot of people think that it probably did happen. Yeah, me, I don't know. I don't know.
Was he better than the husband? I mean, I don't. That's really the question.
Well, he didn't have any baby brothers.
Yeah.
Ed had no friends, and whenever he would make one at school, Augusta would torpedo it.
That boy is the servant of the devil, Ed. I rebuke that boy in the name of Jesus, and you better go repent for bringing that evil into our house.
Oh, poor Ed. He was. Can you imagine? Like, I really want to be your friend. Please don't ever come over.
Yeah. But his relationship with his father, George, wasn't much better. I mean, he was a severe alcoholic, as I mentioned, and he, like Augusta, had a typical spare the rod, spoil the child mentality. So Ed and Henry were abused frequently for everything down to the most minor infraction. But he bowed down to Augusta. She ruled her roost, and not completely out of brute force, but just because she would screech for hours and you'd wind up giving in just to get her to shut the hell up.
Yeah, I'm sure many men can relate.
Not okay. I said it was kind of like like the religious version of Henry Lee Lucas's mom. No, it's more like the religious version of Willie Picton's mom. Which, yeah, that was bad. I'm going to try to do an Augusta voice in this episode, but like I was telling you earlier, I kind of got a sore throat right now. So I'm glad
it may become easier the longer we go.
Could be. But she doesn't really appear in part 2 because she's, spoiler alert, she died.
Spoiler alert, she did.
She did. As Ed hit puberty, his life got even worse. And Augusta made him drop out of school when he was 12 to work the farm. He was never allowed off of the farm, and he was forced out of school. Augusta was just like, no, you got to work the farm. And
get in there. Don't be looking at them cows weird. Them cows are, they're straight from the devil as well,
But Henry still got to leave and run errands, but not Ed. So what's a boy who isn't allowed to do anything ever? What's a boy like that supposed to do? Yeah.
Torture little animals. What? I don't know.
He read books. He read anything that he could get his hands on, whether it was the Bible, a novel, or newspaper, magazine, anything. But as a young teenager, he was being forced to work constantly. So his life was this: wake up, hear Augusta screech; eat breakfast, hear Augusta screech; work the farm, hear Augusta screech; lunch, hear Augusta screech; work the farm, sneak away, read for an hour or two; dinner, hear Augusta screech; get beaten by Augusta and George; bath, hear Augusta screech; Bible lectures by Augusta; bed, then more reading; rinse and repeat.
It sounds like.
Did you get all that?
Sounds like an ideal day.
Did you get all that? I mean, yeah, because there might be a quiz later.
I think I missed the part where like after the reading, what happened? What was it? It was breakfast and then what?
Augustus Screech.
Oh, okay, yes. And
Yeah.
then after working the farm,
Augustus Screech.
got it.
That'd be a good name for a punk band, Augustus Screech.
That's to screech. Kind of, what was it? The oh god, the Angry Pillows.
The Angry Pillows. Not as good as the Angry Pillows, but it would still be a good punk band name.
Yes.
As the boy grew up, Henry had kind of broken out of Augusta's spell. He was going out and meeting people and dating, much to the dismay of Augusta, and he would also question her on her doomsday beliefs, religious beliefs. And Augusta hated him for this, but she needed him to work the farm, so she would just put up with it. And they would fight over it for a lot. But meanwhile, brainwashed Ed was observing all of this and taking it in, and he viewed Augusta as almost like godlike, and she could do no wrong in his eyes. And this caused a rift between Ed and Henry, but put a knife in that.
Mm. How many knives are in this episode?
Don't know. I don't think as many as in the last episode.
Oh, okay.
But then again, this is a 2-part, so never can tell.
True.
April 1st, 1940, Ed's father, George, died from a heart attack. Ed was 33 years old when this happened. He basically drank himself to death.
Yeah.
And he died on April 1st.
Oh, yeah, that would April Fools! Yay! Good joke, Dad. Dad. Hey, Dad. Oh.
Ed started doing handyman jobs around the town to bring more income into the farm, and he was good with his hands. And how could he not be? I mean, that farm was literally held together by the labor of Ed and Henry. I mean,
how could he not be? He had to keep Augusta satisfied, right?
Yeah. Augusta Screech. When this happened, Ed started meeting people, and he was friendly with everybody. He came off to people as a little slow, but everybody liked him. He was full of jokers. He was full of jokes, and that kind of became his local staple. I mean, it was Ed the Joker guy. Ed the teddy bear, and he really was just a sweet guy, and he would never hurt a fly. He even babysat for kids for people, and he was great with kids, and we'll have more on that later.
Just watch, I won't even hurt that fly. Don't worry. Eat.
4 years after George died, the Gein family had another death, and it wasn't Augusta. It was Henry, Ed's older brother. There was a brush fire on the farm that got out of control. And Ed and Henry did their best to fight the fire, but they got separated, and Ed couldn't find Henry again. And this is Ed's account of what happened. He went into town to get help locating Henry, but then he led the rescue crew directly to where Henry's dead body was, like directly to it. There was a nasty bruise on Henry's head, and the part of the property where he had been, quote, found, that part hadn't been burned.
Seems legit.
Yeah. The medical examiner said that Henry died of a heart attack while fighting the fire and had injured his head when he fell and hit his head on a rock, and there was a large rock conveniently right there near him. But the narrative stuck because of the nice guy reputation that Ed had around town, and it wasn't until after Ed got arrested before people started thinking that Henry was Ed's first victim, to which I say, duh.
Oh no, I can't find my brother. Oh wait, here, hold on, let me take you right here. Here he is. All good. Or maybe they considered he was just that was too obvious. Maybe they're like, no one could be this stupid. I mean, we've learned that a lot of killers are stupid, but maybe they thought there's no way he could be this stupid.
Yeah. Henry had a massive bruise on the back of his head, and he was lying face down. And here was some commentary as our old friend Dick Darwin, Dallas detective. He hasn't been on the show in a while, and so Here it goes.
Hello, everybody. Dick Darwin here, Dallas detective. And I know that people have accused Ed Gein of killing his brother Henry. And to the untrained eye, I can see why people might think that. But think back then. There was no way back then to determine whether or not somebody had died of smoke inhalation. I personally think that Henry was in a particularly bad patch of thick smoke and he inhaled enough smoke to make him delirious, but not enough to kill him. He staggered away from the fire to the area that he was found, and he tripped, and he fell, and he hit his head on the rock. And it happened so fast that he hit it, and he slunked off before no hair or blood could be found on the rock. You see, there was no DNA back then. You had to go on keen observation. I believe that Henry was staggering, and he tripped and fell completely backwards, and he hit the back of his head on that rock. And then, in a desperate grasp for life, he flipped over, and that's why he was face down. Perfectly normal situation. There's no need to assign guilt to a man for a crime that he didn't commit, even though he did commit other ones. But he led people right to Henry, and that was likely because that was the only place that he hadn't searched when he went to get help. Anyway, I must say, Sandra, nice to meet you. You are a breath of fresh air. You're like a flower growing out of a sun-scorched Texas desert after a rainstorm. You make this show so much better, sweetie, and I am honored to know you. Dick Darwin, Dallas detective, signing off. Thanks for having me back on your show.
Thanks, Dick. Yeah, he certainly has a unique perspective, and it's always nice to have him on the show. And
Very informative, insightful.
Yeah, you're not the first woman I've had on the show that he kind of flirted with. I had a guest on, kind of flirted with her a little bit too. So, she said, "Oh, he's a smoothie."
That's a way to describe it.
But I seriously, I think that Ed killed Henry for daring to cross mother. I mean,
Mother.
Mother. I mean, Augusta was Saint Mother as far as Ed was concerned, but Henry's death really hit Augusta hard. She took it, she didn't take it well, and she had a stroke shortly after Henry died or was murdered. There was a woman who Henry took a fancy to, and they started dating, and he planned to move in with her, but she already had a child, and as far as mommy was concerned, that made her the devil, and then this may have been the reasoning for Ed to kill Henry.
Oh yeah, I mean, she's obviously had sex at least once in her life. She can't be with that kind of harlot.
Yeah.
Come on.
Even though she's got 2 kids of her own.
Floozy. Yeah, but see, she didn't leave her husband. Her husband died.
Yeah, but she had 2 kids with him, so that makes her a harlot too.
Well, but she wasn't getting another man. I mean, what happened to this first woman's husband? I mean, maybe she just left him because they weren't working out, and that's the seed of the devil right there.
Maybe Ed killed him. But now, whatever happened, Ed had mother all to himself, and personally, her decline after Henry's death kind of ate at Ed. Guilt. My thoughts are if Augusta had been fine and lived for another 10 to 20 years, Ed doesn't go on to do what he did. But that's not what happened. I mean, she was in bad shape. Ed did everything for her, and he fed her, he bathed her, and he waited on her 24/7. He would even get into bed with her and stroke her hair, trying to comfort her. That seemed to bring her mother around. She was kind of improving a little bit, but then she suffered another stroke, and this one time it was fatal. And she died 19 months after Henry died on December 29th, 1945, at 67 years old. But now Ed Gein was completely devastated, and
Motherless, fatherless, brotherless. Okay.
Yeah, 39 years old, completely alone. Not to mention because he was so sheltered, it was like a teenager with no life experience due to, how Augusta had abused and sheltered him. And at Augusta's funeral, he was wailing like a small child. Yeah, I mean, this is one where you feel sorry for the kid, obviously, because I mean, Augusta, but lots of people have horrible childhoods and don't grow up to be murdering, grave robbing, skin suit making, and wearing nipple belt wearing.
I mean,
creeps.
Yeah. I guess that's one way to cope. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it, but
the house was never squeaky clean, but it didn't take long for it to fill up with garbage. And Ed was a hoarder big time. And over the next years, he completely lost it. He was desperate to find a way to get back the life that he had with Mother.
Mm-hmm.
Too bad he wasn't going through that today. I mean, he could find all kinds of people online to dominate him.
Mr. Handcuffs.
Yeah. But he would go visit Augusta's grave every night, praying to God, praying for God to raise her from the dead. He actually believed that God had given him the power to raise people from the dead, according to a psychological examination. So
he was a necromancer.
Yeah.
Right.
So in a way, everything that he did, I'm going off my notes here. I'm like, so I might wind up repeating myself, but everything that he did was basically an attempt to recreate Mother.
Mm-hmm.
Which, Ed was still really friendly to everybody that he came into contact with, but he spent lots of time at Augusta's graves, and although he was still more than happy to do odd jobs, he was spiraling out of control. Both in his head and alone on the farm. I mean, he was compartmentalizing everybody. He seemed normal to everybody around him, but at home he was just lose it.
A mess.
December 8th, 1954, Ed was 48, and there was a dive bar on the outskirts of Plainfield that was run by a woman named Mary Hogan. The drinking age back then was 18, but it was still, it was just your average dive bar.
Mm-hmm.
Dive bars are cool. I like dive bars, but
You can get a Bud Light anywhere, Bill.
Oh boy. But Ed admitted going to the bar several times, but he never had a drink, so he says. Yeah. I don't think Bud Light was a thing in 1954. Bud was, but I don't think Bud Light was. I think Bud Light came out in like the early 70s, I think.
Well, I don't know. To Google.
Oh yeah, I'm curious now. When did Bud Light become a thing?
When did Bud Light come out? Bud Light. Oh my God! It was introduced the year of my birth, 1982.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wrong. I was off by about 10 years.
Ah. So, but Bud Light is as old as me. It is now 42 years old. Oh.
Happy birthday to you. Sandra and my brew. Okay. That will
So,
never.
but now we know. I won't forget that now though, because now it's like Bud Light, my birth year. There we go.
So you should drink it.
No.
Oh man. Mary was a bit of a party animal, and most bartenders are. She also cussed like a sailor, and Ed looked at Mary as like a motherly type figure. I mean, he got along with her, but he didn't. But she was the devil because she was nothing like mother.
Oh no.
Um, she wasn't the ultra religious, overbearing, screeching Augusta type. Mary was more like the dark side version of Gusta, and instead of cookies, she had beer.
She could have cookies too. I mean, both are valid.
Although she kind of looked over him and took him in, but she dated a lot, and that angered Ed because Augusta had always told him that women were the devil. Mary liked Ed, and Ed liked her, or so he thought. December 8th, 1954, around 5 p.m., to start a happy hour, a bar patron came in, and the place was empty, and it looked like there had been a fight. The place was in disarray. Mary was gone. Tables and chairs were knocked over. There were bullet casings, and there was blood on the floor. So apparently Mary put up one hell of a fight.
Well, she sounds like a pretty badass bitch, so she probably did.
Yeah. But nobody had any clue where she was, and it was the talk of the town. It's like, where was Mary Hogan? Who done it? And Ed would say to people, whenever Mary was, came up in conversation, "Oh, she's not missing. She's at the house, strung up in my barn."
Dun dun dun.
No, not really, because people just laughed it off. "Oh, you're such a joker, Ed." That nobody had taken him seriously, though, even though he had 100% told the truth.
Mm-hmm.
The case was unsolved for 3 years, but put a knife in that. What had happened was he was conflicted, and he had killed her as a way to let loose the rage that he'd bottled up inside him toward his own mother. In his mindset, he had killed the bad part of mother.
The bad side, he got rid of the good. Now he can resurrect the good side of mother.
With Mary's body.
Yeah.
But November 16th, 1957, it was the first day of deer hunting season, and Ed was 51 years old. All of the men in town were out hunting, because that's what they did. Every man but Ed.
Oh, he was hunting.
Oh, he was hunting all right. He drove to the Warden hardware store, and it was owned by a 58-year-old woman named Bernice Warden. And the store had been in the Warden family for a very long time, and everybody in town knew and liked Bernice. And in fact, I think that hardware store is still in operation. I think.
Oh
wow. Ed had been hanging around the hardware store for a couple of weeks, talking to Bernice, hitting on her, and even asking her out. She wasn't interested in him, but he had started developing an obsession over her. So one day, Ed came in wanting a half a gallon of antifreeze. Bernice got it for him and wrote out a receipt after Ed paid for it. He put the antifreeze in his truck, and then he came back in and he asked if he could look at a rifle that she had on display. She let him, but he had 22 caliber bullets in his pocket. He loaded the gun after she turned her back, and he shot Bernice in the back of the head. He then dragged her out of the store, loaded her into her truck, and drove back to the farm. He then walked 6 miles back to the hardware store, got into his car, and drove it home. And in his interrogation, he said that he didn't remember killing her.
So he stuffed her into her own car, just like, Mr. Handcuff stuffed women in their own suitcase.
Right. Now that there's a little bit of discrepancy in history coming up, in part 2 regarding that car. It took several hours before the men started coming back into town, and before anybody had noticed that Bernice wasn't in the store. The person who had noticed was her son Frank, and he thought it was odd that she wasn't there, but he saw a trail of blood leading out the door, and Frank immediately suspected Ed Gein because of how much unwanted attention he had been giving his mother. He had also come into the store the day before when Ed came in asking about the cost of antifreeze. And he had also witnessed Ed bothering Bernice frequently, and Ed said,
"Oh, I never asked her out that way. It was just a joke. I asked her if she liked to roller skate, and she said no. And I said I'd just like somebody to go roller skate with me to hold me up because I've never been roller skating either."
Right.
That was a pretty accurate Ed Gein. It's really interesting because that documentary about the lost tapes, that his initial interrogation was recorded and nobody knew it. It was uncovered, and it was just like, I don't know, several years ago, whenever the documentary came out, and up until that point, nobody had ever heard Ed Gein's voice, But then there it was, but what's funny is the guys on last podcast on the left, they're like, "Yeah, let's hear it, because Henry, when they did their episode, he did his own Ed Gein impersonation, and when he heard it, he's just like, that is exactly how I had pictured Ed Gein sounding. And he's like, when I did his voice, that it's pretty damn close to how I did it.
Like a bad Porky Pig.
No, like a Canadian, like a Canadian,
Right?
that because it's so close to Canada, but
Canadian. You almost said Canadian. It's so close to Canada.
But that was just one conversation. He'd been hitting on Bernice a lot more frequently than that. But when police searched the place, they found the receipt that Bernice had written for the antifreeze, and she had written Ed's name on it. So they suspected that Ed might have been the last person to see her alive. So,
he was, in fact, the last person to see her alive.
The police tracked Ed down and found him having dinner with one of his neighbors at their place. He was arrested, and several other cops went to Ed's place, and that's when they found the stuff. The things.
All the things.
All the things. But they went into a shed out back, and it was dark, and Ed had no electricity. And but they had flashlights, and one cop saw something hanging from the rafters, and he shined his flashlight on it. And at first, they thought it was a gutted deer. It was gutted, but it wasn't a deer.
Oh, I mean, can you just imagine? I mean, that's one of those scenarios where I just think to myself, I don't even know how I would react to that. I mean, I understand, police and first responders and stuff they see a lot of shit. Mm-hmm. But seeing that, just shining your flashlight and seeing a gutted human dangling from the ceiling of a shed, I don't know. I think at that point I'd be like, maybe I might want to choose a different career. I don't know.
I'm gonna buy an ice cream truck, and just
it's much happier, more whimsical. Get to listen to music all day. The same song, probably,
same
but
over and over and over again.
I find something. You mentioned ice cream trucks. I almost find something eerily sinister about ice cream truck music.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like, especially if it's coming from like a distance.
Oh, I know.
And it's playing like Pop Goes the Weasel or some shit,
Mm-hmm.
and it's never a good, like, on tune kind of. Yeah.
And it's so loud. I mean, I'm surprised. I'm sure there's at least one serial killer out there that used to be a ice cream truck driver. Actually, there is. Fred West. Fred West. He was an ice cream truck driver. And
Yeah.
he actually killed a kid. Accidentally ran a kid over, and I think that was an accident because the kid just ran out. If I remember correctly, there were witnesses. The kid just ran out in front of him or something. But still, yep. Fred West had an ice cream truck briefly.
Yeah. There's one that sometimes goes by the school that I work for, and it's usually when the kids get out of school. But I just go outside and I hear this creepy ass music. I'm like, all right, I don't think I like this very
Yeah. But no, it wasn't a deer. It was a woman who had been strung up naked by her heels, and she was split from her sternum to her pelvis, and her head had been cut off. Her head was nowhere to be found, and it was kind of like if Art the Clown in the first Terrifier movie had gotten bored like 8 inches away from the neck and just chopped her head off instead.
You know, my husband just watched those movies the other day, and I've never seen them. Okay, I've never seen the Terrifier, but I came into the living room and saw some of that on the TV, and I just looked at him. I'm like, "What the hell are you watching?" He's like, "Terrifier," and I looked at it and went, "I have no idea what's going on. I don't understand what's happening here. There's like some girl dresses an angel or something. I had no idea what was going on. Like this is some Art Deco type horror that I just don't understand."
Well, they're just gore porn. That's all they are. I mean, and the third one, the reviews are the advanced reviews are starting to come out about it, and it's supposed to be even more gory and disgusting than the first two combined.
Yeah, I mean, he asked me, he's like, "Hey, honey, you want to see a woman get sawed in half?" I looked at him and went, I don't think that I ever expected you'd string those words together in a sentence ever. But no, I'm good for now.
I'm good. Yeah. but it was Bernice Warden, and the cops hauled ass out of there in horror, and they both lost their lunch.
Did they eat the Winn-Dixie chicken?
No, I don't think they had a Winn-Dixie.
Not in Wisconsin.
No, they would probably have a Piggly Wiggly in Wisconsin. In
No.
fact, no, because in that 70s show, the mother is always talking about going to the Piggly Wiggly.
I thought Piggly Wiggly was more of a Tennessee area thing. I mean, I know I grew up in Northwest Indiana and there was no Piggly Wiggly anywhere, but we were going through like Tennessee and stuff when we were driving, and Kentucky and things like that. And I think, like, I know I saw a Piggly Wiggly, but
yeah, there aren't any in Florida.
No, but now I need to look about if there's Piggly Wiggly in Wisconsin, but I'm not sure. I know we have Strachan Van Til, so there's Strax and Jewel Osco were some northern stores by us, and Meyer was kind of like the sort of Target sort of store, kind of.
Yeah. But that, and they also up in like northern Georgia, Tennessee, and the Carolinas, they have Kroger. But Kroger's trying to force their hand in Florida now. I've noticed they've got some delivery services, trucks running around. Like,
so there are Piggly Wigglies. Wisconsin, I think there's 5 of them.
Okay,
in
so
Wisconsin?
that 70s show was,
Oh, actually, there's quite a bit more. I lied. Oh, no, there's a ton. Yeah, so I guess Piggly Wiggly, for all of our Wisconsin listeners, I guess it is a thing up there.
Yeah,
They just skipped over the Midwest. I don't know, except for Wisconsin. They're like we'll go from Tennessee and screw Indiana and just go straight up to Wisconsin. No Michigan.
but I've been to Kroger. It's like Publix light.
Mm-hmm.
It's good quality stuff, but it's not Publix, and their fried chicken sucks.
Yeah. Yeah,
Kroger.
there's a couple places that are now defunct. I mean, I remember like there were a few Kroger, but not they're not Kroger's defunct, but I think of like pharmacies like Eckerd. Do you remember
Hmm.
Eckerd? There no more.
It used when it back in the 70s and 80s it was called Eckerd Drugs. then they
Oh
just
yeah, that's what they sold.
then they just changed it to just Eckerd's, and then they went out of business.
Yeah. Mhm.
News spread around town, and the Plainfield residents were in shock and horror, and people refused to believe that good old goofy Ed could do such a thing. And when Ed was arrested, the police put him in the drunk tank because they were afraid that the townspeople might come and lynch him. um, the lynching never happened, though, but put a knife in that. But you can
I
see
think we're
why
up to
they
4 knives now. 4 knives, I
something like
think.
that. But we had one right out of the gate.
We did.
But yeah, but you can see why the police thought that lynching was a possibility, though. But Ed had been hiding in plain sight, doing these gruesome things, and all while interacting and being chummy with the townspeople. Cops then went into Ed's house, and Augusta's room had been boarded up because Ed wanted it to stay just as it was when Augusta was alive. And it was by far the cleanest room in the house, and Ed had made it into a shrine that he himself wasn't even worthy of entering.
Oh, mama.
He not only would drop his own garbage wherever it fell in the house, he would also bring in garbage from the dump. I mean, his house was just nasty.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, hoarding is such a complex thing, but I can always kind of understand people that hoarded things that were, I mean, stuff that some other people might find use with, but just useless randomness. But hoarding actual trash or
Yeah,
garbage or junk, like that, I never truly understood. I'm like, why are you holding on to garbage? Like, literal trash. I mean, you know, you want to hoard objects and stuff. I can kind of understand. But yeah, garbage, no.
yeah. I mean, but then again, you don't have kids, so you don't know what some teenagers fit that description. Some grow out of it, some become hoarders.
I guess. But I mean, hoarders, I mean, so many hoarders just have trauma. I mean, they do have trauma. Like him, he had the trauma of his mother, brother, well, mother, father, maybe caused trauma to his brother. But yeah, I mean, hoarding is very much a trauma-based thing in a lot of circumstances. So,
Yeah. But they also found things that had been made from human body parts. Chairs that were upholstered in human flesh, a lampshade that was made out of human skin, the remains of 12 human heads in jars, gloves made from the skin of human hands, a jar of human noses, a box full of vaginas that were some of them were decorated in paint and had ribbons tied through them.
oh, you have to make them pretty. Come on. Can't just have a plain
Well,
pussy. I mean,
I mean, it's maybe he heard somebody refer to sex as bumping uglies, and he wanted to make it pretty.
yeah. Listen, I know a lot of women who think a bow would probably make it prettier. So you know what? It's okay.
Well, some women pierce down there, and but
Embellishments, accoutrements.
um, but he said that the paint was there to preserve it.
Oh yeah. Again, you got to keep it pretty.
There was a belt that was made from the nipples of multiple women, and they even had like a shade puller that had been weighted with two human lips.
You know, I don't really when I think about like trying to weight something down, I don't necessarily think of lips. What's gonna weight this thing down? Huh, lips.
Yeah,
No, maybe like weight it down with a leg or a foot. Yeah. Yeah. You could put a hand on
even
it and
even a finger, I'm sure weighs more than a pair of lips.
yeah.
But
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not weighing these parts, but I would assume.
yeah, but that's not all they found. You want more?
Ooh, tell me more.
Well, tune in next week for part 2, and we'll start it off with the laundry. So what do you think so far? I mean, did you find out anything that you didn't know going in?
Oh yeah. I have not researched Ed Gein very much, so I know some of what he did, but not a lot. So I'm learning as we go. This is a fun learning experience for all involved.
But yeah, and now we're gonna switch over to we're gonna bring in Sandra's husband Doug for the beer of the week. All right, wrapping everything up, we're going to switch gears. We're going to kind of bring something back, but make it better. And those of you watching on video see a third person sitting here. This is Doug, who is Sandra's husband. And what we're bringing back is the beer talk that kind of went away when Todd left. And so we're going to kind of bring it back and make it better. So this is going to be how each episode wraps up moving forward. I think you guys are going to like it. I think it's going to be pretty cool. So how's it going, Doug?
Going all right. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm thirsty, but
Same here. Same here.
But so tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So as you said, my name is Doug. I'm Sandra's husband. I have been into craft beer the better part of 10 plus years. Similar to you, I drank Bud Light in my early 20s. That's all I really knew was Bud Light, and I got to give it up to Bud Light. They get a lot of heat, they get a lot of trash talk and such, but honestly, when it comes to Bud Light, they have some of the best brewmasters in the world. And I say that because no matter where you go in this wide world, whether it's America, Mexico, Japan, Australia, no matter where you go, a Bud Light tastes the same, no
Right.
matter where you go. And I give it up to their brewmasters. They had a lot of specialty brews back in the day that were really good and such. But yeah, I mean, their brewmasters, some of the best. Now, granted, it's beer flavored water. I'll just have to say that, but it's still consistent beer flavored water, no matter where you go.
Yeah. Like
I
with a
almost-
Heineken, you might get one that tastes like a Heineken. You might get one that tastes like marijuana smells.
Right. Yeah. So exactly. But no, Bud Light, I have to give it up to their brewmasters. And we live in Tampa, right? So we have Busch Gardens and SeaWorld, used to be owned by Anheuser-Busch, and they had a brewery here in Tampa that distributed and such. And one of their biggest things was their hospitality house. And their brewmasters had the ability to try different things and experiment and such. And you could go in and try one of their experimental batches and whatnot, and it was really good, right? So, I've been around craft beer, like I said, the better part of 10 years. I tend to gravitate more towards darker beers, and that's this type of season we're in right now is getting a little chillier out, cold winds blowing, and it's time for winter
Except
warmers.
in Florida.
Yeah, except in Florida. But the up north, stouts, winter warmers, and that kind of thing. Definitely that time. But that's what I mostly gravitate towards is those darker beers. I have brewed as well. I am a craft brewer. I've brewed
Nice.
beer 3 or 4 times. Turned out really well. I've also brewed mead in the past as well. I've done several batches of mead in the past, and I've been home brewing for around the same time, the better part of about 10 years or so.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I'm just stuck on the Bud Light. And by the way, I back 6-8 months ago when Bud Light was getting all all that bullshit because they had that transgender woman. You know, everybody's like, cancel Bud Light. I'm like, keep protesting, please, because at that time I was paying like $8.99 for a 12-pack. I was loving that shit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen $8.99 for a 12-pack of beer since like the 90s.
No, a case of water is a little cheaper there, Bill.
So, funny enough, I don't know if Sandra told you, but I was in Kentucky recently doing the Bourbon Trail for one of my buddies' 50th birthday. And one of the breweries we went into, most breweries have like a water keg set up where you can get water, you know, and such. This one actually had it attached to their cooler, and it was a tap handle. And you just pull the tap handle, got water out, right? Bud Light was the tap handle, which I thought was hilarious. But yeah, so are we ready to get into my beer of the day?
Yep.
All right. So with this one, I thought it was appropriate. I heard Sandy, who the serial killer you guys are doing today, right? Is that still under wraps, or do the viewers know?
No, Ed Gein.
Ed Gein. Okay. Yeah. So the beer that I have today is it's called Dismembers Only.
Appropriate.
Appropriate. This is a bourbon barrel aged American Imperial Stout with cocoa nibs, guillotine cherries, and Thai bananas. It's out of Three Floyds. Three Floyds is a brewery out of Munster, Indiana. So I have been to this brewery. It is an amazing brewery. As you can see here, it is a very dark beer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it is super dark, very brown. And it's a 13.5 on the ABV scale, so it is I like to call high octane. But this is kind of where I settle in. Between 12 and 13% is my sweet spot for a dark beer. It's got a 94 out of 100 on beeradvocate.com. That's where I normally go to get my beer reviews and such, is Beer Advocate. But it is very dark brown. Not much of a head on it, but yeah, definitely get the chocolate and the cherries and the bananas out of this. The nose is very good on it. Very sweet. This thing is super sweet, but that usually comes with the high octane beers. Very very sweet, almost like a dessert stout in some cases. But yeah, it is very very thick. Let's take a sniff. Yep, third one. Very thick. You do the very similar to bourbon. You do the Kentucky chew, where you have to chew it a little bit to get all the notes and such. But yeah, this is an amazing beer. I've had this one before, but I figured it was appropriate for who you are covering today.
Eddie G.
Old Ed Gein. But he was a mama's boy, I hear.
Big time.
Yep. But no, this is a solid beer. Again, I highly recommend anyone in the Munster, Indiana, or Northwest Indiana, Chicagoland area, check out Three Floyds. They are an amazing brewery. They are also known, I think it was 2013 through 2016. I'm pretty sure that's the date range. I'll have to double check. But #1 beer in the world 3 years in a row. They had, which is called the Dark Lord. They are known for the #1 beer in the world. So
nice.
But yeah, very very thick, very sweet beer. Again, Dismembers Only. Again, definitely get the chocolate, the cherry, and the banana all from the nose, and a little hint of vanilla on the back end on the taste. So that is my beer of the week.
Nice. Yeah, I wish I wasn't so picky because but I don't know. I just don't like other beers. I just don't know why.
You've only tried two, and they've been the same brand.
I've tried.
One is a little
less.
I've
tried other beers. I have tried other beers. I just don't like them. I've tried craft brews. I've tried them. I just don't like them. And people out there, if you want to send him some beer, to review on the show, I think it'd probably be best if they email you directly, Doug. That way I don't have to be the middleman, since this is your bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Let me set up a separate email for that, and I will get you
okay.
that on the next episode. I will get a separate email to send out to the viewers, and they can absolutely send me ones to review if I can get my hands on it. I have several places around this area that have a lot of craft beer, both locally in Florida, mostly local stuff, but I can get stuff from out of state as well. So, and I tend to travel a lot too. Anytime I travel, I tend to go to craft breweries, bring back beer with me. I have room next to right outside of our laundry room that's full of craft beer just sitting waiting to be drank. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, I have a lot of bottles I need to get through. So, but I may
Well-
have what they're looking for. I may have it in my storage. So
Well, in the meantime, they can send until you get the email set up. They can send it to email the podcast at ckcbpodcast.com, and then once once you get that email, because we're about to do another one right now. But once you get that email, then we'll just say moving forward. But I don't think it's gonna happen overnight for people to start wanting stuff to. Although it might, you never know.
never know.
So yeah, I mean that'd be cool if it does. So.
Yep.
Anyway, thanks a hell of a lot for listening. We appreciate the hell out of it. Like, review, share, subscribe, comment, and all that other stuff that I always get tongue tied on and
Do
forget
all the
exactly.
things.
Do all the things. And one of these days, I'm going to write down a script for this, and I'll just freaking read it until I memorize it. But not today. Anyway, yeah. Until next time, later.
Bye.
Bye.